My shift should have ended 20 minutes ago, but I was still there on Malibu Beach, boots digging into the warm sand, eyes scanning the water out of habit more than duty. 6 years of this work had carved instincts into my bones deeper than any training manual could reach. The afternoon sun beat down mercilessly, turning the Pacific into a sheet of blinding silver, and tourists packed the shoreline like they always did on Thursday afternoons in August. I spotted her immediately, the little girl sitting alone while other children shrieked and splashed nearby. She wasn't playing. She was watching, small hands buried in the sand, shoulders tight with tension that seemed wrong for someone so young. Dark curls escaped from beneath a pink hoodie that was far too heavy for this weather, and even from 20 yards away, I could see the trembling in her fingers. Carmen stood a few feet behind her, wringing her hands and shooting nervous glances between the child and the waves. I knew Carmen by sight. She'd brought the girl here 3 times in the past 2 weeks, always the same routine. Therapy, I'd guessed. Exposure therapy for water phobia. The kind of gentle, patient work that took months to show progress. The girl inched forward, just her toes touching the foam. Carmen smiled encouragement, relief washing across her weathered features. This was progress. This was the breakthrough they'd been working toward. Then the ocean betrayed them. I saw it before anyone else did, the way the swell pattern shifted, the subtle pull of an undertow forming. Rogue wave, my brain supplied automatically. Happens fast on this stretch when the tide turns. The wall of water built itself in seconds, rising higher than the gentle rollers that had been lapping at the shore all afternoon. The girl looked up just as it hit. She went under without even a scream. Small body yanked into the churning surf like a rag doll. Carmen's shriek cut through the beach noise, raw and terrified. But she froze. Couldn't swim well enough to attempt a rescue in that current. I was already moving. Instinct doesn't ask permission. My boots came off as I ran, feet pounding across hot sand that burned my soles. I hit the water at full sprint and dove through the next wave, salt water shocking my system with its cold grip. The Pacific here wasn't gentle. It was hungry, pulling and pushing with currents that could drag a grown man under if he wasn't careful. I found her 15 feet out, sinking. Her eyes were open but unfocused, mouth slack, small arms floating limp at her sides. Panic wanted to claw its way up my throat, but I shoved it down. Training took over. Secure the victim. Maintain contact. Get to shore. I hooked one arm under her armpits and kicked hard, fighting the current that wanted to pull us both deeper. My lungs burned. My arms screamed. Every stroke felt like pushing through concrete. But I didn't stop. Couldn't stop. The girl's dead weight in my arms was both motivation and terror. My knees hit sand and I dragged us both onto the beach, collapsing beside her as water streamed from her nose and mouth. Not breathing, lips already going blue. Carmen was sobbing somewhere nearby, but I couldn't focus on that. I tilted the girl's head back, checked her airway, positioned my hands. 2 rescue breaths. 30 compressions. The count ran through my head like a metronome. Come on. Come on. Her chest hitched. She coughed once, violent and wet, then sucked in a desperate breath that sounded like the most beautiful thing I'd ever heard. Water spilled from her mouth as she gasped and choked and cried, small body convulsing with the effort of expelling the ocean from her lungs. I rolled her onto her side, hand on her back, murmuring words I didn't even remember later, just sounds meant to soothe, to anchor. Her eyes found mine and locked on, terrified and searching. "You're safe," I managed, voice rough. "You're safe now, sweetheart. Just breathe with me." The crowd that had gathered parted for the paramedics. Efficient hands took over, checking vitals, loading her onto a gurney. But when they tried to separate us, her small fingers latched onto my wrist with surprising strength. "Don't go," she whispered, voice hoarse from seawater. "Please don't go." So I climbed into the ambulance beside her, still dripping, still wearing my lifeguard uniform that clung to my skin uncomfortably. Carmen followed in a separate vehicle, phone pressed to her ear, speaking rapid Spanish that I couldn't quite catch over the siren. The hospital was chaos wrapped in sterile white walls and antiseptic smell. They rushed the girl, Sophia, I learned from the paperwork, into an examination room while I stood uselessly in the hallway, leaving puddles on the linoleum floor. A nurse brought me a towel and a cup of terrible coffee. I accepted both. I was filling out the incident report when the atmosphere changed. It started with the security guards straightening, hands moving instinctively toward their radios. Then the whispers from the nurses at the station, voices dropping to urgent murmurs. The double doors swung open, and men in suits entered like a wave of darkness, moving with synchronized precision that spoke of military training. 4 of them fanned out across the waiting area, hands clasped in front of them, eyes hidden behind dark sunglasses that had no business being worn indoors. They didn't speak, didn't need to. Their presence alone commanded the space, made everyone else shrink back instinctively. Then he walked in. Tall, easily 6'3", broad shoulders filling out a black suit that probably cost more than I made in 3 months. Dark hair swept back from a face carved with sharp angles and a jaw that could cut glass. But it was his eyes that stopped me. Dark, intense, the kind of eyes that saw everything and revealed nothing. He moved through the hospital like he owned it, like every person in that building existed solely at his pleasure. And maybe they did. The staff certainly treated him that way. Nervous deference wrapped in fear, wrapped in respect. His gaze swept the room and landed on me, pinned me in place. For 3 heartbeats we just stared at each other, and I felt something shift in my chest. Recognition, maybe, though I'd never seen him before in my life. Or maybe just the bone-deep understanding that my life had just taken a turn toward something dangerous. "Where is she?" His voice was low, controlled, but I heard the tremor underneath. Fear masquerading as command. A doctor appeared, Dr. Cross according to her badge, and guided him toward Sophia's room. I followed without being asked, pulled by some instinct I didn't understand. Sophia's eyes lit up when she saw him. "Daddy?" He was at her bedside in 3 strides, large hands impossibly gentle as they framed her small face. The mask cracked just for a moment. I saw the terror beneath, the desperate love of a father who'd almost lost everything. Then his eyes found me again, standing awkwardly in the doorway, still damp, still clutching my incident report. "Who are you?" Not aggressive, just absolute. A demand for information that expected immediate compliance. "Claire Hartwell. I'm a lifeguard." I pulled her out. Sophia's hand shot out, grabbing mine before I could step back. "She saved me, Daddy." The water was so scary and she saved me. Something shifted in his expression. The hardness softened fractionally around the edges. He stood slowly, moved toward me with that same predatory grace. "Thank you." 2 words that sounded like they'd been dragged from somewhere deep. "I owe you everything." "You don't owe me anything. I was doing my job." His head tilted slightly, studying me with new interest. "Your job ended at 3. It's 3:20. Observant. Unsettling. She needed help. Most people would have called 911 and watched. I'm not most people." That earned me something that might have been a smile on someone less intimidating. Clearly, Sophia still hadn't let go of my hand. Her grip was weak, but insistent, fingers cold against my palm. "Don't leave. Please don't leave." The man, her father, watched this interaction with an expression I couldn't read. Then he turned to me fully, and I felt the weight of his attention like a physical thing. "How much do you make?" "As a lifeguard." I blinked. "Excuse me?" "Your salary. Annually. I don't see how that's relevant." "Humor me." Something in his tone suggested this wasn't a request. 45,000. Plus overtime. He nodded once, as if that confirmed something. "Work for me instead. Full-time. Your only job is to protect my daughter." My mouth opened, closed. I can't just... 150,000. Health insurance. Housing provided. The number hit me like a physical blow. More than triple my current salary. Enough to finally move my mother to a better facility. One with actual specialists instead of overworked nurses. Enough to breathe for the first time in 3 years. "Why?" I managed. His gaze never wavered. "Because my daughter trusts you. Because you jumped into dangerous water without hesitation. Because I need someone who acts on instinct when it matters." He paused. "And because I can see you need the money." That last part stung with its accuracy. "I need time to think about this. You have 24 hours. I'll leave my card with the nurse." He turned back to Sophia, smoothing her damp curls with surprising tenderness. Get some rest, Principessa. As he moved toward the door, he stopped beside me, close enough that I could smell expensive cologne and something darker underneath. Power, maybe. Danger. Think carefully, Claire Hartwell. This offer won't come twice. Then he was gone, taking his small army with him, leaving me alone with a sleeping child and a decision that felt like standing at the edge of a cliff, trying to decide whether to jump. The hospital room felt smaller once Raphael Luminari stood in it. He moved with the kind of authority that didn't need announcement. Every step deliberate, every breath measured. Behind him, an older man with prematurely gray hair and sharp eyes followed. His brother, I learned later. Adriano. The family resemblance was there in the jawline, the bearing. But where Raphael carried cold control, Adriano radiated calculated wariness. Dr. Cross provided her update with clinical precision. Sophia was stable, vitals strong. No lasting damage from oxygen deprivation, but they'd keep her overnight for observation. Standard protocol for near-drowning cases. Raphael listened without interrupting, his hand never leaving Sophia's. The girl had fallen asleep finally, exhaustion claiming her small body after the trauma. But even unconscious, she'd kept her fingers wrapped around mine. When the doctor finished and excused herself, Raphael's attention shifted fully to me. The weight of his scrutiny made my skin prickle with awareness I didn't want to name. You saved her life. Not a question. A statement delivered with the finality of someone used to dealing in absolutes. Anyone would have done the same. No. His voice dropped lower. They wouldn't have. Most people hesitate. Fear overrides instinct. He paused, eyes narrowing slightly. You didn't hesitate. I shifted uncomfortably, suddenly aware of how disheveled I looked. Still in my damp lifeguard uniform, hair tangled with salt and sand, bare feet leaving marks on the sterile floor. It's what I'm trained for. Training doesn't eliminate fear. It just gives you tools to work through it. He stood slowly, movements fluid despite his size. What's your full name? Claire Hartwell. Family? The question felt invasive, but something about his tone made refusal feel dangerous. My mother. She's in a care facility. Multiple sclerosis. His expression didn't change, but I saw something flicker in those dark eyes. Recognition, maybe. Or calculation. Father? Dead. Fishing accident when I was 19. Siblings? No. He nodded once as if filing away information. Your salary. Not enough to cover your mother's care and your own expenses. It wasn't a question, and the accuracy of it made my stomach clench. How did he know about my mother's facility? I manage. Barely. He crossed his arms, suit jacket pulling across broad shoulders. Work for me instead. Full time. Your only responsibility is Sophia's safety. The proposal hung between us. Absurd in its simplicity. You don't know anything about me. I know you risked your life for a stranger's child. I know you stayed when you could have left. I know my daughter trusts you, which is more than I can say for most people. His gaze held mine. $150,000 annually. Full health insurance that includes coverage for your mother. Housing provided on my property in Pacific Palisades. The number stole my breath. Triple my current salary. Enough to move my mother to a facility with actual neurologists instead of rotating residents. Enough to stop choosing between groceries and gas. I need time to think about this. You have 24 hours. He reached into his jacket and withdrew a business card, placing it on the small table beside Sophia's bed. My direct number. Call when you've decided. And if I say no? Something almost like a smile crossed his face. Then you say no. I don't force people into service, Miss Hartwell. But I think you'll find the alternative less appealing. Before I could respond, Sophia stirred, her grip on my hand tightening. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused and frightened. Don't go, she whispered, voice hoarse. Please don't go. I knelt beside the bed, brushing damp curls from her forehead. I'm right here, sweetheart. I'm not going anywhere. Promise? The word felt like a trap. But looking into those wide, terrified eyes, I couldn't bring myself to lie. I promise. Raphael watched this exchange with an expression I couldn't read. Then he leaned down, pressing a kiss to Sophia's forehead with surprising gentleness. Rest, Principessa. Carmen will be here soon. He straightened, gave me one last measuring look, and left without another word. Adriano lingered in the doorway for a moment, his gaze sharp and assessing. My brother doesn't trust easily, he said quietly. The fact that he's offering you this position means something. Don't make him regret it. Then he was gone too, leaving me alone with a sleeping child and a business card that felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. I stayed until Carmen arrived, guilt-stricken and apologetic. She took my place at Sophia's bedside, thanking me over and over in rapid Spanish that I only half understood. I assured her it wasn't her fault, that rogue waves were unpredictable, that Sophia was safe now. The drive home to my tiny studio apartment felt surreal. I kept replaying the offer in my head. $150,000, housing included, my mother finally getting the care she deserved. But working for Rafael Luminari meant entering a world I didn't understand, a world where men wore suits worth more than my car and moved through hospitals like they owned them, where security details followed them everywhere and people spoke in hushed, fearful tones when they passed. I fell into bed still wearing my uniform, exhaustion pulling me under despite the questions circling in my mind. The phone woke me at 2 a.m. The facility. My mother had taken a turn. They'd stabilized her, but Dr. Patterson wanted to discuss treatment options, experimental therapy, new medication that showed promise for progressive MS patients. Cost, $80,000, not covered by insurance. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at Raphael's business card on my nightstand, and understood that the choice had never really been mine at all. The office building where I met Raphael the next morning didn't look like a criminal enterprise. It looked like success. Gleaming glass and steel in downtown LA, with Luminari Imports etched discreetly on the lobby directory. The receptionist expected me, directing me to the top floor with efficient courtesy. Raphael's office occupied the entire penthouse level. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered views of the city stretching to the ocean. The decor was minimalist, but expensive. Dark wood, leather furniture, abstract art that probably cost more than my car. He sat behind a massive desk, reviewing documents with the same focused intensity he'd shown at the hospital. He looked up when I entered, gesturing to the chair across from him. "You're early. I'm accepting your offer." He set down his pen, studying me with those unreadable eyes. "What changed your mind?" "My mother needs treatment I can't afford." "Honest. I appreciate that." He opened a drawer, withdrawing a contract already prepared. "Read it carefully. Take your time." I did, scanning the dense legal language. The salary was as promised. Housing in the guest cottage on his Pacific Palisades estate. Health coverage that was genuinely comprehensive. But buried in the middle was a clause about confidentiality. Knowledge of family business operations and associates, with penalties for disclosure that made my hands go cold. "What exactly is your business, Mr. Luminari?" "I import wine from Italy. My family has vineyards there. And the other businesses? Various holdings, real estate, investments." His expression didn't change. "Nothing that will ever put you in danger." The lie sat between us, obvious and unacknowledged. The confidentiality clause, standard for anyone working closely with my family. We value privacy. I should have walked out. Every instinct screamed that I was making a mistake. But I thought of my mother, of Sophia's small hand in mine, of the promise I'd made. I signed. Raphael countersigned without hesitation, then stood and extended his hand. "Welcome to my employ, Miss Hartwell. You start today." His grip was firm, warm, and sent an unwelcome jolt of awareness through me that I immediately pushed aside. This was business, nothing more. The Pacific Palisades mansion made the office building look modest. Sprawling Mediterranean architecture behind gates and walls, with grounds that seemed to stretch forever. Armed guards patrolled with professional efficiency. Cameras tracked every angle. The guest house where I'd be living was larger than my entire apartment had been, decorated with the same understated luxury as Raphael's office. Carmen met me there, helping me settle in and explaining the household routine with maternal efficiency. "Mr. Luminari, he's very protective," she said, unpacking the few belongings I'd brought. "Since Mrs. Luminari passed, He doesn't let many people close to Sophia. How long ago did she die? 2 years. Cancer. Carmen's expression grew distant. She was kind, beautiful. Sophia looks just like her. She paused. Mr. Luminary hasn't been the same since. More careful, more... She struggled for the word. Hard. That first week passed in a blur of learning Sophia's schedule, memorizing security protocols, and trying not to feel overwhelmed by my new reality. Sophia warmed to me quickly, her nightmares decreasing when I started reading to her before bed. She asked questions constantly, about the ocean, about my life, about whether I'd really stay. Each time I promised I would, I felt the weight of that promise growing heavier. I began noticing things. The late-night meetings in Raphael's study, men arriving in expensive cars, speaking in low Italian, the way conversations stopped when I entered rooms, the careful way everyone avoided discussing exactly what business Raphael conducted. One evening, passing by his study, I heard raised voices. The door was slightly ajar, and I glimpsed Raphael gesturing sharply at a man I didn't recognize. The tension was palpable even from the hallway. Carmen appeared beside me, gently steering me away. Mr. Luminary's meetings are private. What kind of business is he really in, Carmen? Her expression closed off immediately. The kind you don't ask questions about if you value your peace. That night, Sophia woke screaming from a nightmare about drowning. I held her while she cried, singing softly until she fell back asleep in my arms. When I looked up, Raphael stood in the doorway, watching with an expression that made my breath catch. She trusts you, he said quietly. She's a good kid, sweet. She doesn't let people in easily. Neither do I. He moved closer, and the guest room suddenly felt smaller. But you're different. She knew it from the moment you pulled her from the water. I'm just doing my job. No. His voice dropped lower. You're doing much more than that. And I'm beginning to think hiring you was either the best decision I've made or the most dangerous. Before I could ask what he meant, he was gone, leaving me alone with a sleeping child and the growing certainty that I'd stepped into something far more complicated than a simple employment arrangement. The conversation with Tyler didn't go the way I'd hoped. We sat in the cramped booth of our usual diner, grease-stained menus between us, and I watched his expression darken as I explained Raphael's offer. Claire, no. He set down his coffee hard enough that it sloshed. The Luminary name, do you have any idea what that means in this city? It means he imports wine from Italy. It means he controls half the ports on the West Coast. It means people don't cross him and live to regret it. Tyler leaned forward, voice dropping. My cousin works dock security. The stories he tells about the shipments that come through Luminary-controlled areas. I don't want to know. The words came out sharper than I intended. That's the problem. You don't want to know, but you're about to live on his property. Watch his kid. Become part of whatever world he operates in. I pushed my untouched eggs around the plate. My mother needs treatment. $80,000 for experimental therapy that might give her 5 more good years. Tyler's face softened. Shit. Claire, I'm sorry. When did you find out? Dr. Patterson called at 2 this morning. They want to start within the month. We sat in silence for a moment, the clatter of dishes and conversation washing over us. Finally, Tyler reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Just promise me you'll be careful. And if things get weird, weirder than they already are, you'll get out. I promised, though we both knew it was a lie. By morning, my decision was made. I called Raphael's number from the business card, and within 3 hours, I was sitting in his downtown office signing a contract that felt like selling my soul. The money hit my bank account before I'd even finished reading the confidentiality clause. The move happened with shocking efficiency. Raphael had arranged for movers to pack my studio apartment while I was at the office. By sunset, I stood in the guest house on his Pacific Palisades estate, surrounded by boxes and luxury I couldn't quite process. The cottage was 3 times the size of my old place, with floors that gleamed and furniture that looked like it belonged in a magazine. Through the windows, I could see the main house, a sprawling Mediterranean villa that seemed to go on forever. Carmen found me standing in the kitchen, staring at the espresso machine I had no idea how to operate. It's intimidating at first, she said kindly, moving to show me the controls. But you'll adjust. We all do. She spent the afternoon walking me through Sophia's routine with maternal patience. School drop-off at 7:45 at Brentwood Academy. Pick-up at 3. Tuesdays and Thursdays were art therapy with Dr. Chen. Wednesdays were regular therapy with Dr. Morrison to help process the trauma of losing her mother. Fridays, Sophia had swimming lessons that she still refused to attend. Mr. Luminary, he insists we keep trying, Carmen explained. He says she can't let fear control her forever. I thought of Sophia's small body limp in my arms, the terror in her eyes when she'd woken. Maybe fear exists for a reason. Carmen's expression shifted, something unreadable crossing her features. Perhaps. But Mr. Luminary doesn't accept limitations. Not for himself, not for his daughter. The security protocols took longer to learn. There were codes for every door, cameras monitoring every angle of the property, armed guards who patrolled in shifts. I was given a phone that linked directly to the security team and told to keep it on me always. Why so much security for a wine importer? I asked. Carmen's answer was careful. Mr. Luminary values privacy. And Sophia, after what happened to Mrs. Luminary, he takes no chances. That first week passed in a haze of adjustment. Sophia warmed to me quickly, asking questions constantly, trailing me through the guest house and showing me her favorite hiding spots in the garden. Her laugh was infectious when she forgot to be sad, and watching her come alive reminded me why I'd accepted this position in the first place. But at night, I started noticing things that didn't fit the wine import narrative. Men in expensive suits arriving after dark, always in pairs or groups. Conversations that happened in Raphael's study behind closed doors, voices rising and falling in Italian that sounded nothing like business discussions. The way everyone's posture changed when Raphael entered a room. Not respect, but something closer to fear. One evening, I passed by his study and found the door slightly ajar. I shouldn't have stopped. Shouldn't have looked. But I heard Raphael's voice, sharp with authority, and curiosity overrode common sense. Through the crack, I glimpsed him standing at his desk, flanked by Adriano. 3 other men faced them, and the tension in the room was palpable even from the hallway. Raphael gestured sharply, speaking rapid Italian that I couldn't follow but understood in my bones. This was power. Command. The kind of conversation where lives hung in the balance. One of the men started to argue, and Raphael's hand came down on the desk with a crack that made me flinch. His response was quieter, but the men went pale. Miss Hartwell. Carmen's voice behind me nearly stopped my heart. I spun, guilt written across my face. I was just coming to ask me something? Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Mr. Luminary's business meetings are private. It's better not to be curious about them. What kind of business requires armed guards and midnight meetings? Carmen's expression closed off completely. The kind you don't ask questions about if you value your peace. Come, I'll show you how Sophia likes her breakfast prepared. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in the massive bed in my cottage, staring at the ceiling and trying to reconcile the man who'd gently kissed his daughter's forehead with the one who'd commanded that room with barely controlled violence. Around 2 a.m, I heard screaming. Sophia. I was moving before conscious thought, crossing the yard to the main house in bare feet, using the code Carmen had given me for emergencies. I found Sophia's room on the 2nd floor. The door open, nightlight casting shadows across walls painted with clouds and stars. Sophia thrashed in her bed, trapped in a nightmare that had her crying for her mother in broken gasps. I sat on the edge of her mattress and gathered her small, sweaty body into my arms. Shh, sweetheart. You're safe. I'm here. She clung to me with desperate strength, face buried in my shoulder. The water. Mama was in the water and I couldn't reach her. She kept going under and I couldn't. It was just a dream. Your mama isn't in pain anymore, remember? She's somewhere safe, but she left. Everyone leaves. The words hit me square in the chest. I held her tighter, rocking slowly, and started humming the song my father used to sing when I had nightmares. Sophia's breathing gradually steadied, her grip loosening as exhaustion reclaimed her. Claire? Her voice was small, muffled against my neck. Yeah, baby? You're not going to leave too, are you? Like Mama? Like all the other people Daddy hired who got scared and left? I should have been honest. Should have told her that I didn't know how long I'd stay. that this job came with an expiration date I couldn't predict. But looking at her tear-stained face, I couldn't bring myself to add another uncertainty to her world. I'm not going anywhere. Promise? I promise. When I looked up, Raphael stood in the doorway. I had no idea how long he'd been there, but his expression was raw in a way I hadn't seen before, vulnerable. He watched me holding his daughter like I was solving a puzzle he couldn't quite figure out. Sophia had fallen back asleep, her breathing deep and even. I carefully laid her back down and tucked the covers around her, smoothing her wild curls. When I turned to leave, Raphael blocked my path. She doesn't let people comfort her, he said quietly. Not since her mother died. Carmen tries, but Sophia pushes everyone away. She's scared. Fear makes us push away the people we need most. Is that experience talking? I met his eyes. Maybe. We stood there in the dimly lit hallway, close enough that I could see the exhaustion carved into the lines around his eyes. He looked older in this light, wearier. Thank you, he said finally, for keeping your promise to her at the hospital. For staying when she needed you tonight. It's what you pay me for. No. His gaze held mine with uncomfortable intensity. What I pay you for is protection. What you just did, that was something else entirely. Before I could respond, he turned and walked away, leaving me alone with the echo of his words and the growing understanding that I'd stepped into something far more complicated than a simple employment arrangement. I'd promised Sophia I wouldn't leave. But standing in that mansion in the middle of the night, surrounded by security and secrets, and a man whose very name inspired fear, I wondered if staying might be the most dangerous promise I'd ever made. The next morning, life returned to its new normal. School runs and art therapy, and carefully not noticing the way conversations stopped when I entered rooms. But something had shifted. Raphael's eyes found me more often across the dinner table when he joined us for meals. Sophia clung to me tighter, her nightmares slowly decreasing from nightly to a few times a week. And I began to understand that whatever world Raphael Luminari lived in, whatever darkness funded this beautiful life, I was no longer just observing from the outside. I was being pulled in. One promise, one saved child, one dangerous moment at a time. 3 weeks into my new life, I'd almost convinced myself this was normal. Sophia's schedule had become second nature. The morning rush to Brentwood Academy, art therapy on Tuesdays, regular counseling on Wednesdays. Her nightmares had decreased from nightly terrors to maybe twice a week, and she'd started laughing more. Real laughter that made something warm bloom in my chest. Thursday afternoon, I took her to Palisades Park like I did most days after school. 2 security guards shadowed us at a discreet distance. Marco and Luis, both former military, both carrying concealed weapons I pretended not to notice. Sophia climbed the jungle gym while I sat on a bench nearby, watching her play with the careful attention that had become instinct. That's when I saw it. A black SUV with tinted windows, parked across the street in a spot that offered a clear view of the playground. It had been there when we arrived, engine running, no one getting out. My lifeguard training kicked in before conscious thought. Assess the threat, plan the exit, protect the vulnerable. Sophia, sweetheart, time to go, I called, keeping my voice light despite the tension coiling in my stomach. But we just got here. I know, but I promised Carmen we'd help her make cookies, remember? Marco appeared at my elbow, his hand inside his jacket. You saw it too. The SUV, yeah. His jaw tightened. We need to move, now. The drive back to the estate felt longer than usual. My eyes constantly checking the rearview mirror. The SUV didn't follow, but that somehow made it worse. Raphael met us at the entrance, and the look on his face when Marco briefed him made my blood run cold. Double the security detail, Raphael ordered, his voice clipped. 4 men, minimum when Sophia leaves the property. And I want to know who was in that vehicle by tonight. Raphael. His eyes cut to me. Not now, Claire. But later that evening, after Sophia was in bed, he found me in the guest house. His knock was perfunctory before he let himself in, and I bit back irritation at the presumption. We need to talk, he said without preamble. About the SUV? About Viktor Morozov. He moved to my window, looking out at the gardens lit by security lights. He controls most of the Russian operations in Los Angeles. Drugs, weapons, human trafficking. He wants what we have. We? I crossed my arms. You mean your wine import business? Raphael turned, and for the first time since I'd met him, something like frustration crossed his carefully controlled features. You're not naive, Claire. You've been here 3 weeks. You've seen the meetings, the security, the way people react to my name. So, tell me the truth. What are you really? I'm a businessman who operates in spaces the law doesn't reach. I control the ports, the shipping lanes, the distribution networks. I ensure order where chaos would otherwise reign. His gaze held mine, and men like Victor want to take that from me. Why not go to the police? The look he gave me was almost pitying. Half the LAPD is on someone's payroll. The other half doesn't have the resources to protect what matters. He moved closer. This is my world, Claire. I handle my own problems. The admission should have sent me running. Instead, I found myself asking, how much danger is Sophia in? With the security I have, minimal. But Morozov is getting bolder. His expression hardened. That's why I need you to be vigilant. Trust no one outside this house. The following Tuesday, vigilance wasn't enough. I picked Sophia up from Brentwood Academy at 3, same as always. Marco and Luis flanked us as we walked toward the parking lot, Sophia chattering about the painting she'd made in art class. I was reaching for the car door when I saw them. 2 men moving too quickly, too purposefully through the parking lot. Everything happened in seconds. Marco shouted a warning. One of the men reached for Sophia. My lifeguard training took over, the same instinct that had made me dive into dangerous water without hesitation. I grabbed Sophia, spun her behind me, and screamed "Fire" at the top of my lungs. The word cut through the afternoon like a blade. Parents turned. Teachers came running. The men hesitated, their plan derailed by sudden attention. Marco and Luis moved like lightning, weapons drawn. One of the attackers pulled a gun. The crack of gunfire shattered the suburban peace, and I was moving on pure instinct, covering Sophia's small body with my own as we hit the ground. Glass shattered. Someone screamed. More shots, these from Marco's weapon. Then silence, broken only by Sophia's terrified crying against my chest. "Stay down," Marco barked, scanning for additional threats. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold Sophia, but I kept my body between her and the parking lot. The attackers were on the ground, one clutching his leg, the other flat on his back. Luis had his gun trained on them while Marco spoke rapid commands into his phone. Raphael arrived before the police, which should have told me everything I needed to know about his influence. He came through the chaos like a force of nature, his usual control fracturing when he saw us on the ground. He dropped to his knees beside us, hands hovering over Sophia's shoulders, as if afraid to touch her, afraid she might break. "Are you hurt? Sophia, baby, look at me." "Daddy," she sobbed, reaching for him. He pulled her into his arms, and over her head, his eyes found mine. "You could have died." I was still kneeling on the asphalt, adrenaline making my limbs feel disconnected. "It's what you pay me for." "No." His voice was rough, raw in a way I'd never heard. This was beyond any contract. "You didn't have to do that." "Yes," I said quietly. "I did." Something passed between us in that moment. An understanding, an acknowledgement of something neither of us was ready to name. Then the moment broke as police sirens wailed closer. The aftermath was chaos. Police statements. Adriano appearing with lawyers who handled everything with practiced efficiency. The 2 attackers were taken away, and Raphael made it clear through channels I didn't want to understand that they would face consequences before the legal system ever touched them. That evening, a woman arrived at the estate unannounced. Lucia Bellavita moved like she owned the place, all polished elegance in designer clothes that probably cost more than my car had. She kissed Raphael's cheek with the familiarity of someone who'd done it 1,000 times. "I heard about the incident," she purred, her hand lingering on his arm. "How terrifying. Poor Sophia." Sophia, who'd been sitting beside me on the couch, stiffened. "I don't like you." "Sophia," Raphael warned. But there was no real heat in it. "I mean it. You're not my mom, and you're not Claire. I want Claire to stay." Lucia's smile didn't falter. but her eyes when they met mine were cold. Later, when Raphael stepped away to take a call, she sat beside me with predatory grace. "You're the lifeguard," she said, not quite a question. "The one who saved her at the beach." "Yes. How noble." Her tone made it sound like anything but. "Raphael has a habit of collecting people who owe him favors. A business arrangement, nothing more. Don't mistake his gratitude for anything deeper." Before I could respond, Raphael returned. "Lucia, I appreciate the visit, but we're dealing with increased security protocols." She rose smoothly, kissing his cheek again. "Of course. Call me if you need anything." Her gaze slid to me one last time. Anything at all. After she left, Raphael found me in the kitchen, staring at nothing. "She's wrong," he said quietly. "About what?" "About why you're here." He moved closer, close enough that I could smell his cologne, feel the heat of his body. "This stopped being just business the moment you jumped into that water. We both know it." My heart hammered against my ribs. "Raphael, your mother," he interrupted. "I can provide additional security for her facility. No one will be able to touch her." The offer should have been welcome. Instead, it felt like another chain. "No." His brow furrowed. "Claire, I already owe you everything. My job, my home, my mother's treatment. I won't owe you her safety too." I met his eyes. "She stays out of this." For a long moment he just looked at me. Then he nodded slowly. "As you wish. But if that changes, it won't." He left without arguing, but I saw something in his expression I couldn't quite name. Respect, maybe, or concern. That night, I lay awake thinking about gunfire and Sophia's small body in my arms, about the way Raphael's control had cracked when he'd thought we were hurt, about Lucia's warning and the growing certainty that I was in deeper than any contract could define. Somewhere in the house, I heard voices, Raphael and Adriano, speaking in tense Italian. The investigation into the attack. The search for whoever had given away our schedule, our route. The perfect time to strike. There was a traitor in Raphael's organization. Someone close enough to know our movements. And until they were found, none of us were safe. I pulled the covers tighter and tried not to think about how much easier it would be to leave, how much smarter. But I'd made a promise to Sophia. And increasingly, I realized, I'd made one to myself too. Whatever this world was that Raphael inhabited, whatever darkness funded these beautiful lies, I was no longer just an observer. I was part of it now, for better or worse. The week after the school parking lot incident passed in a tense blur. 4 security guards shadowed us everywhere now. Sophia's nightmares returned with a vengeance, and I spent most nights in her room, holding her while she cried herself back to sleep. Raphael worked longer hours. His study door closed more often than not, the murmur of Italian conversations bleeding through the walls at all hours. I'd started to understand what Carmen had meant. About not asking questions. About letting things be. But understanding and accepting were different things entirely. It was Wednesday night when everything changed. Sophia was finally asleep after an hour of reading, and I headed downstairs to grab water from the main house kitchen. The estate was quieter than usual. Most of the staff had gone home, and even the usual rotation of guards seemed lighter. I was passing Raphael's study when I heard the sound. A muffled cry, then the crack of something hard against flesh. My feet stopped moving before my brain could catch up. The door wasn't fully closed, just a sliver of space, but enough. I shouldn't have looked. Every instinct Carmen had tried to drill into me screamed to walk away, to pretend I'd heard nothing, seen nothing. But my hand was already pushing the door wider, my eyes already adjusting to the scene inside. Raphael stood in the center of the room, suit jacket discarded, shirt sleeves rolled to his elbows. Blood spotted the white fabric. Adriano leaned against the desk, arms crossed, expression carved from stone. And between them, tied to a chair, was a man I recognized from the estate, one of the security team, Carlo. Raphael's fist connected with Carlo's jaw, and the sound made my stomach turn. Not the violence itself. I'd seen bar fights, domestic disputes during my beach patrol days, but the cold precision of it. The way Raphael moved with calculated control, each blow measured, purposeful. Where is Morozov's base of operations? Raphael's voice was ice. Last chance, Carlo. Carlo spat blood. Go to hell. Another hit. This one to the ribs. The crack of bone was unmistakable. I must have made a sound. A gasp. A whimper. Something. Because Raphael's head snapped toward the door. Our eyes locked, and I saw it happen in real time. The predator recognizing an intruder. The mask slipping back into place. Claire. Not a question. A command wrapped in my name. I stumbled backward, but Adriano was already moving, blocking my escape route with his body. I think she's seen enough to warrant a conversation. Get her out of here, Raphael said, but his eyes never left mine. No. My voice shook but held. I'm already here. Might as well tell me the truth. The truth? Raphael's laugh was bitter. You want the truth? This man sold information to Viktor Morozov. He told them exactly where Sofia would be, when, and how many guards would be with her. He's the reason men with guns showed up at her school. I looked at Carlo. At the blood running from his nose. The way he wouldn't meet my eyes. Guilty. Unmistakably guilty. So call the police. The police? Raphael moved toward me, and I forced myself not to flinch. The police can't hold him. Morozov has judges, lawyers, cops on his payroll. Carlo would be out in 48 hours, and my daughter would still be a target. So you're just going to torture him? I'm getting information that will keep my family safe. He stopped inches from me, close enough that I could see the flecks of blood on his collar. This is my world, Claire. I told you that when you signed the contract. I told you not to ask questions. No. Something hot and furious rose in my chest. You told me you imported wine. You told me Sofia needed protection. You never told me I'd be working for someone who... I gestured at Carlo, at the blood, at everything wrong with this picture. Who does this? Raphael's jaw tightened. I never lied to you. You chose not to see. The accuracy of that hit like a physical blow. He was right. I'd seen the guns, the guards, the late-night meetings. I'd heard Carmen's warnings and Tyler's concerns. I'd known, and I'd chosen the money anyway. Chosen the comfort and security and the ability to save my mother. I need to leave. The words came out strangled. You can't. What do you mean I can't? I quit. Find someone else to watch Sofia. Adriano spoke from behind me, voice heavy with something like pity. Check your contract, Miss Hartwell. Section 12, subsection C. Knowledge of family operations constitutes a security risk. Termination requires approval from the family head. Ice flooded my veins. You're saying I'm a prisoner. I'm saying you know too much to simply walk away. Raphael's expression was unreadable. You've seen our security protocols, our routines, our vulnerabilities. If you left and that information reached the wrong people, I would never... I don't know that. His voice dropped lower. I can't know that. So you stay until I decide otherwise. The cage I'd been living in suddenly became visible. Golden bars, yes. Comfortable prison, absolutely. But a prison nonetheless. This is insane. This is survival. Raphael turned back to Carlo. Adriano, take Claire back to the guest house. Make sure she stays there. Don't touch me. I jerked away from Adriano's reaching hand. I can walk myself. But I didn't go to the guest house. I went to Sofia's room, needing to see her, needing to remind myself why I'd stayed in the first place. She was curled around Mr. Flopsy, her stuffed rabbit, breathing deep and even. Peaceful in a way she rarely was anymore. I sat on the edge of her bed and tried to reconcile the man who'd kissed this child's forehead with such gentleness with the one I'd just seen systematically breaking another human being. Claire? I turned to find Sofia awake, eyes heavy with sleep. Hey, sweetheart. Just checking on you. You're sad. It wasn't a question. Did Daddy make you sad? Smart kid. Too smart. Grown-ups have complicated feelings sometimes. Are you going to leave? Her voice went small. Like everyone else who gets scared of Daddy? The question shattered something in my chest. Has that happened before? She nodded. Lots of times. People come to work for Daddy, and then they see something or hear something, and they get scared and leave. Daddy says it's because they're weak. She sat up, clutching my arm. But you're not weak. You saved me. You're the strongest person I know. I pulled her into my arms, feeling the weight of my promise at the beach settling heavier on my shoulders. I'm not going anywhere, baby. I promised you that, remember? But you're mad at Daddy. Yeah, I am a little bit. Will you stop being mad? I don't like it when people are mad at each other. It makes my tummy hurt. I kissed the top of her head, breathing in the sweet scent of her strawberry shampoo. I'll try, okay? Now go back to sleep. The next morning, Tyler showed up at the gate. I didn't even know he was there until one of the guards called the main house, and Raphael intercepted me before I could reach the entrance. He can't come in. Why not? He's my friend. He's a connection to your old life. A potential security risk. He's a lifeguard who knows nothing about your business. He knows you work for me. He knows where you live. That's already too much. Raphael's expression was immovable. I've told the guards to turn him away. Something inside me snapped. All the fear and confusion and anger from the previous night boiled over in a surge of pure rage. You don't own me, don't I? His voice was dangerously soft. Let's review, shall we? You live in my house. You eat my food. You use my vehicle, my insurance, my resources. Your mother breathes because I pay for her treatment. You exist in this life because I allow it. You son of a... My hand moved before thought, connecting with his cheek with a crack that echoed through the foyer. The security guards tensed, hands moving toward weapons. Raphael held up a hand, stopping them. For 3 heartbeats, we just stared at each other. Then he moved, fast as lightning, catching my wrist and pulling me against him. Feel better? His voice was rough, breath hot against my face. No. Good. Because I don't either. The kiss was inevitable. Angry and desperate and wrong in every way. His mouth crashed against mine with bruising force, and I kissed him back with equal fury, channeling every conflicted emotion into the press of lips and clash of teeth. His hand fisted in my hair, angling my head, and I dug my nails into his shoulders hard enough to leave marks through his shirt. It lasted maybe 30 seconds. Then reality crashed back in, and we broke apart like we'd been burned. That was... I started. A mistake, Raphael finished, voice rough. That was a mistake. Agreed. We stood there, breathing hard, the space between us charged with everything we couldn't say. Then Raphael stepped back, smoothing his shirt with shaking hands. Adriano wants you to understand the consequences of betrayal, of what happens when someone crosses the line. He wouldn't meet my eyes. You'll witness Carlo's execution tonight. Non-negotiable. Raphael, 7 o'clock. Study. Don't be late. He walked away before I could argue, leaving me alone with the taste of him still on my lips and the crushing realization that I'd just kissed a man who terrified me. Worse, I'd wanted it. The execution was clinical. Quick. A single shot to the head while Carlo knelt in the basement I hadn't known existed. I didn't scream. Didn't cry. Just stood there with Adriano's hand on my shoulder, forcing myself to watch as the man who'd endangered Sophia paid the price. This is the world you're part of now, Adriano said quietly, as Carlo's body was wrapped in plastic. You can fight it, or you can accept it, but you can't escape it. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, unable to close my eyes without seeing blood. Sophia was safe. My mother was receiving care. I had security and comfort and everything I'd needed, but I was falling in love with a monster, and his 6-year-old daughter had become the child I'd never had. There was no escape. Not from Raphael's world, and not from the terrifying truth that I didn't want to escape anymore. The cage door was open, and I was choosing to stay. That realization was more frightening than anything I'd witnessed in Raphael's study. 2 weeks crawled by after Carlo's execution. I barely slept. When I did, I saw blood spreading across concrete, heard the crack of gunfire echoing in my ears. Sophia sensed something was wrong. Kids always do, and clung to me tighter than usual. Her nightmares returned with renewed intensity, and most nights found us curled together in her bed, both of us seeking comfort we couldn't quite name. Raphael kept his distance. We existed in the same house, orbited each other during meals and handoffs of Sophia, but we didn't speak beyond what was necessary. The kiss hung between us like smoke. Impossible to ignore, impossible to address. I hated that I missed him. Hated that I'd catch myself looking for him in doorways, listening for his voice in the hallway. Hated that I'd memorized the way he moved, the cadence of his breathing, the precise shade of his eyes when they softened looking at his daughter. Carmen noticed. Of course she did. He's hurting too, she said one afternoon while we folded laundry. Mr. Luminari. He doesn't know how to be close to people anymore. Not since Mrs. Luminari died. That's not my problem. Isn't it? Her knowing look made me want to throw something. The call came at 2 a.m. on a Friday. I'd finally fallen into restless sleep when my phone lit up with a number I didn't recognize. Instinct made me answer. Miss Hartwell? A man's voice, accented. Russian. I have something that belongs to you. Ice flooded my veins. Who is this? My name is Viktor Morozov. Perhaps Raphael has mentioned me? A pause that dripped malice. Your mother sends her regards from Sunny Meadows Care Facility. Such a lovely woman, so fragile. The room tilted. If you hurt her, that depends entirely on you, Miss Hartwell. You have 6 hours to present yourself at the address I'm texting you. Come alone. Tell no one. If you comply, your mother lives. If you don't, he let the sentence hang. Well, these things can be so tragically unpredictable. The line went dead. A text arrived seconds later with an address near the port. I sat frozen, phone clutched in shaking hands, mind racing through impossible options. Call Raphael. Don't call Raphael. Go alone. Don't go alone. My mother's face swam before my eyes. The way she'd smiled during her last lucid moment. The way she'd squeezed my hand and told me she was proud of me. The decision made itself. I was pulling on clothes, grabbing my keys, when Raphael appeared in my doorway like a shadow given form. Where are you going? I jumped, pressing a hand to my racing heart. Jesus, don't do that. It's 3 a.m. Where are you going? The lie formed on my tongue, but his eyes, those impossibly dark, knowing eyes, saw right through me. Victor called. He has my mother. Raphael's expression went arctic. When? 10 minutes ago. He wants me to come alone to an address by the port. 6 hours. It's a trap. I don't care. Claire. She's my mother. The words ripped from somewhere deep and raw. I know it's a trap. I know he'll probably kill me anyway. But I can't. I won't let her die because of me. Because of this. I gestured at the house, at him, at everything wrong with this beautiful prison. Raphael moved closer, and I saw something crack in his carefully maintained control. And Sophia. You promised her you wouldn't leave. The words hit like a physical blow. This isn't the same, isn't it? His voice dropped dangerously low. You die. She loses another person she loves. She breaks, again. Is that acceptable collateral damage? I wanted to scream, to hit him, to collapse. What would you have me do? Let my mother die? Let me handle it. He pulled out his phone, already typing. Adriano can have a team mobilized in 20 minutes. Military extraction. We go in hard. We get your mother out. We end Morozov for good. He said come alone. He's lying. Viktor Morozov is a sadist who enjoys the game more than the outcome. He wants you scared and helpless. I won't give him that satisfaction. Hope and terror warred in my chest. You'd do that? Risk your men for my mother? Something in his expression softened. I'd risk considerably more than that. The operation happened with terrifying efficiency. Within 30 minutes, Raphael had assembled 15 armed men in tactical gear. Adriano briefed them in clipped Italian, while Raphael studied blueprints of the warehouse, where Victor was supposedly holding my mother. You stay here, Raphael told me, checking his gun with practiced ease. With Sophia. 4 guards remain with you. No. His head snapped up. Excuse me? I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. She's my mother, Raphael. I'm not sitting here doing nothing while you risk your life for her. This isn't negotiable. Neither is this. I crossed my arms, channeling every ounce of stubbornness I possessed. I'm going. Lock me in a room. I'll find a way out. Drug me. I'll fight until I can't stand. You want me to stay? You'll have to shoot me. Adriano made a sound that might have been amusement. Raphael looked like he wanted to strangle me and kiss me in equal measure. Fine, he bit out. But you stay in the vehicle. You don't leave. You don't engage. You're dead weight on this op. Understand? I nodded, relief making my knees weak. The warehouse district near the port was exactly as bleak as I'd imagined. Rusting metal structures and broken asphalt stretching toward black water. We drove with headlights off, parking 2 blocks from the target location. Raphael's team moved like ghosts, spreading out to surround the building. Stay here, Raphael ordered one final time before sliding from the SUV. I lasted maybe 3 minutes before my phone buzzed. A video message from an unknown number. I opened it and nearly vomited. My mother, tied to a chair, blood trickling from her temple. Behind her, Victor Morozov smiled at the camera. Your friend Raphael is here, Miss Hartwell. How predictable. Come inside in the next 60 seconds or I start removing fingers. I was moving before thought, slipping from the vehicle while the driver was focused on his radio. The warehouse loomed ahead, door hanging open like a mouth. Gunfire erupted inside, sharp cracks followed by shouted commands. I ran. The interior was chaos. Muzzle flashes lit the darkness like strobe lights, men shouting in English, Italian, Russian. I dodged behind a pillar as bullets whined past, heart slamming against my ribs. Then I saw her. My mother, still in that chair, and Victor standing behind her with a gun to her head. Raphael approached from the left, weapon raised, face carved from stone. That's close enough, Luminari, Victor called. You've caused me considerable trouble. Let her go. This is between us. Oh, but it's so much more entertaining this way. Victor's smile was a shark's. You get to choose. The pathetic woman or your new pet? Who do you value more? Sophia. The voice cut through everything. I turned and there she was. Sophia, clutching Carmen's hand, eyes wide with terror. Carmen looked stricken, mouthing apologies I couldn't hear over the blood rushing in my ears. Victor's attention snapped to the child. His gun swung away from my mother. Toward Sophia. Everything slowed. I saw Raphael turn, saw the precise moment he understood. Saw Victor's finger tighten on the trigger. And I was already running, throwing myself forward with the same instinct that had made me dive into dangerous water to save this child once before. But this time it wasn't instinct. It was choice. Conscious, deliberate sacrifice. The bullet hit my shoulder with force that spun me sideways. Pain exploded through nerve endings like liquid fire. I heard screaming. Sophia's, Carmen's, maybe my own. And then I was on the ground, vision swimming. Raphael's roar was primal. Gunshots. 3 in rapid succession. Victor's body hit the floor. Then Raphael was there, gathering me into his arms with hands that shook. Claire, stay with me. Look at me. I tried to focus on his face, but everything kept tilting. Sophia? She's fine. She's safe. You're safe. His voice cracked. Why did you do that? Had to. Speaking hurt. Everything hurt. Promised I'd stay. Darkness pulled at me, soft and insistent. Raphael's face was the last thing I saw before it claimed me completely. I woke to white walls and the steady beep of monitors. Hospital. Again. My shoulder throbbed with each heartbeat, immobilized in bandages that smelled of antiseptic. Raphael sat in the chair beside my bed, head in his hands, shoulders bowed under invisible weight. He looked up when I stirred, and the raw emotion in his face stole my breath. You're awake. My mom? Safe. Adriano's team got her out before the firefight started. She's in a private room 3 floors down. No idea any of this happened. Relief made tears slip down my cheeks. Victor? Dead. No remorse in his voice, just fact. His organization is being dismantled as we speak. It's over. We sat in silence for a moment. Then Raphael reached out, threading his fingers through mine with a gentleness that contradicted everything I knew about him. I thought I'd lost you, he said quietly. When I saw you go down, I thought... His grip tightened. I can't do this anymore, Claire. Can't pretend you're just Sophia's protector. Can't pretend that kiss was a mistake. Can't pretend I don't love you. My breath caught. Raphael, I know. My world terrifies you. I terrify you. And you should be terrified. His eyes held mine. But I haven't felt this way since before my wife died. Haven't wanted anything beyond revenge and safety for my daughter. You changed that. You made me want more. I'm scared," I whispered. "Of what you do. Of what I'm becoming. Of how much I want this despite everything. Then be scared. But be scared with me." He leaned forward, pressing his forehead to mine. "Stay. Not because of a contract or obligation. Stay because you choose to." Outside the hospital window, the city sprawled in the morning light. Somewhere out there was my old life. Safe, simple, small. And here was this new one. Dangerous, complicated, impossibly large. I thought of Sophia's face, of the promise I'd made, of the way my heart stuttered every time Raphael looked at me like I was something precious instead of something useful. "I'll stay," I said, "but I need you to promise something. Anything. No more secrets, no more half-truths. You want me in your life? All of it. I see everything or I see nothing." Raphael studied my face for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Everything. I promise." He kissed me then, soft and careful, mindful of my injuries. And for the first time since I'd signed that contract, I felt like I was exactly where I belonged. 2 weeks after the warehouse, I was finally cleared to go home. The bullet had torn through muscle and bone, but missed anything vital. Dr. Cross called it miraculous. I called it lucky. Raphael refused to let me return to the guest house, insisting I recover in the main house where he could keep an eye on me. Sophia became my shadow. She'd drag pillows and blankets into my room, setting up camp on the floor like she was afraid I'd disappear if she fell asleep. We read books, watched movies, and she'd tell me elaborate stories about underwater kingdoms where everyone was safe and happy. The nightmares had stopped completely. Raphael visited constantly, bringing meals, adjusting pillows, checking my medication schedule with the precision of a general planning military operations. The tenderness was almost harder to handle than the violence had been. This version of him, gentle, attentive, vulnerable, threatened to undo every defense I'd built. One evening, after Sophia had finally been coaxed to her own bed, Raphael found me on the balcony outside my room. The city stretched below, lights glittering like fallen stars. "You should be resting." He moved beside me, close but not touching. "I've been resting for 2 weeks. I'm going stir-crazy." "Dr. Cross said another week minimum before." "Raphael." I turned to face him. "We need to talk about what happens next." Something guarded entered his expression. "What do you mean? You said you loved me, that you wanted me to stay, but I can't stay in this world the way it is now." I took a breath, gathering courage. "If you want me here, really here, not just as Sophia's protector, things have to change." "What kind of changes?" "Transparency. No more secrets about your business. I need to understand what I'm part of." I counted on my fingers. "I want veto power over any decisions involving Sophia's safety. No extreme violence near her or me. I can't witness what I saw in that basement again. And you need to start transitioning toward legitimate operations. Real ones, not just fronts." Raphael was quiet for so long I thought he'd refuse. Then he exhaled slowly. "That's a significant ask. I know. But it's non-negotiable. The transition could take years. My family has operated this way for generations. You don't just walk away from territory, alliances, obligations. I'm not asking you to walk away overnight. I'm asking you to start moving in that direction." I met his eyes. "For Sophia. For us. For any kind of future where we're not constantly looking over our shoulders." He turned to the railing, gripping it hard enough that his knuckles went white. "If I agree to this, if I fundamentally alter how I operate, my enemies will see it as weakness. They'll move against us. Then we handle it. Together." "You make it sound simple." "It's not. But the alternative is me leaving once I'm healed. Taking my mother somewhere far from this city and never looking back." The words hurt to say, but I forced them out. "I can't raise Sophia in a world of constant violence." "I won't." Raphael turned back to me, and the raw emotion in his face made my breath catch. "You'd take her from me?" "No. You'd lose her yourself by refusing to give her a safer life." I softened my voice. "She's 6 years old, Raphael. She's already lost her mother. How much more trauma can she survive before it breaks her permanently? The truth of that hit him visibly. He moved closer, cupping my face with both hands. Everything you asked for. I agree to all of it. Just like that? You think I haven't been considering this since the moment I saw you bleeding in that warehouse? His thumb brushed my cheekbone. I've built an empire on violence and fear. But what's the point of power if I lose the only people who make me want to be better? I kissed him then, pouring every complicated emotion into the press of lips and the tangle of tongues. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against mine. This won't be easy, he warned. Nothing worth having ever is. The following week, Raphael called a meeting with his senior people. I sat beside him in his study, a statement in itself. Adriano raised an eyebrow but said nothing. The other men looked uncomfortable with my presence. But Raphael's expression brooked no argument. We're restructuring, he announced without preamble. Over the next 5 years, we transition primary operations to legitimate business. Wine import expands. We invest heavily in real estate, shipping logistics, security consulting. And the current operations? Adriano asked carefully. Phase out gradually. We honor existing obligations but take no new contracts in weapons, gambling, or anything that draws federal attention. Raphael's tone left no room for debate. I've already started talks with the Castrovani family about assuming some territory. We'll maintain enough presence to stay protected, but reduce exposure significantly. The room erupted. Men talking over each other, objections flying. Raphael let it continue for 30 seconds before slamming his hand on the desk with a crack that silenced everyone. This isn't a discussion. It's an announcement. His voice went deadly quiet. Anyone who can't adapt is free to leave with full severance in my recommendation to other families. But if you stay, you follow this path. Adriano studied his brother for a long moment. Then he nodded. I'm with you. That was all it took. The others fell in line, though I saw doubt and resentment in several faces. Change wouldn't come easy, but it would come. 3 weeks later, Lucia Bellavita returned. She swept into the estate like she'd never left, all designer clothes and perfect hair, demanding to see Raphael. I was in the garden with Sophia when Carmen came to get me, her expression tight with worry. Miss Lucia is here. She's very upset, making accusations. My stomach sank. What kind of accusations? She's saying you're working with the police, that you're an infiltrator sent to destroy Mr. Luminari's organization. Sophia's hand tightened in mine. Is that lady back? I don't like her. I know, baby. Why don't you stay here with Carmen while I go talk to your dad? I found them in Raphael's study. Lucia pacing like a caged animal while Raphael sat behind his desk, expression unreadable. Adriano leaned against the wall, arms crossed. There she is, Lucia spat when she saw me. The little lifeguard who came from nowhere and suddenly has access to everything. Don't you find that suspicious, Raphael? I find your timing suspicious, Raphael replied calmly. You disappear for a month and return with accusations the moment I announce restructuring? Because I've been investigating. She pulled out a folder, slamming it on his desk. Phone records. Bank transactions. She's been in contact with someone at the FBI. Ice flooded my veins. That's impossible. Is it? Lucia's smile was vicious. 3 calls to the same number over the past month. A number registered to Special Agent David Chen. Raphael's expression went carefully blank. Explain. I can't. My mind raced. I don't know anyone named David Chen. I haven't been in contact with the FBI. The evidence says otherwise. Lucia leaned forward. She's playing you, Raphael. Using your feelings to destroy you from the inside. Let me see those records. Adriano pushed off the wall, studying the documents. His frown deepened. The number is listed, but... He pulled out his own phone, dialing. This is Adriano Luminari. I need a trace on... He stopped. When? I see. Thank you. He hung up, looking at Lucia with new interest. That number was registered to an FBI agent, David Chen, who was killed in the line of duty 8 months ago. Before Claire ever came here, the color drained from Lucia's face. That's impossible. I verified. You verified what you wanted to see. Raphael stood slowly, Which raises the question of how you got these records at all. Standard phone company data doesn't show this level of detail unless someone with access pulls it. Someone with connections. Or someone who's been working with Viktor Morozov, Adriano added quietly, using his network to manufacture evidence. Lucia took a step back. You're insane. I would never. Viktor knew things only someone close to the family could have told him. Raphael continued, moving around the desk. Schedules, security protocols, weaknesses. His eyes never left Lucia. You've been spending a lot of time at his clubs over the past year. I have statements from people who saw you there. Raphael, please. Investigation takes time when you're not looking in the right places. He stopped inches from her. But once you know where to dig, evidence surfaces quickly. Bank transfers from Morozov's operations to accounts connected to your father's business. Recorded conversations between you and Viktor's lieutenant about payment for information. Lucia's composure shattered. He promised me power, said once you were out of the way, his organization and mine could unite. That I'd be more than some alliance marriage you rejected. So you endangered my daughter. Raphael's voice went glacial. Sold information that led to attempts on Sophia's life. The child was never supposed to be hurt. That wasn't part of the plan. Get her out of my sight. Raphael turned away dismissively. Adriano, arrange transport out of the city. If she's here by tomorrow night, she dies. If she ever returns, she dies. If any member of her family attempts contact with mine, they all die. Adriano grabbed Lucia's arm, dragging her toward the door despite her protests. Raphael waited until they were gone before turning to me. I'm sorry. His hands flexed at his sides. I should have known immediately that evidence was fabricated, that you'd never betray us. You had to verify. I understand. I moved closer, taking his hand. This is what transparency looks like. Asking hard questions. Investigating until you find the truth. He pulled me against him, burying his face in my hair. I almost lost you again. If I'd believed her without checking. But you didn't. You trusted what you knew about me more than convenient evidence. I tilted my head back to look at him. That's what matters. 6 months passed like water through fingers. The transition Raphael promised began taking shape. Slowly, with resistance, but undeniably real. The wine business expanded into legitimate distribution deals. Real estate investments multiplied. Security consulting contracts with actual corporations started filling the ledgers alongside the shadowy operations that were gradually phased out. I still worked as a lifeguard 3 days a week. Raphael had been incredulous when I insisted, but I needed that connection to who I'd been, to the person who dived into dangerous water without hesitation. Some mornings I'd watch the sunrise over Malibu Beach and marvel at how far I'd traveled from that moment. Sophia bloomed. The nightmares were gone completely. She'd even started swimming lessons. Actual lessons, not the terror-filled therapy sessions. Watching her laugh in the pool, fearless and happy, made every complicated choice feel worth it. My mother's condition stabilized with the new treatment. She had more good days than bad now, and though she'd never fully understand where the money came from, she was grateful. Raphael changed in ways I hadn't expected. He smiled more, laughed with Sophia, held my hand during dinner like we were a normal family instead of a carefully constructed alliance between worlds. The violence hadn't disappeared. It couldn't, not completely. But it had moved further from our daily lives. From Sophia's innocence. We were having breakfast when Raphael slid a small box across the table. Sophia squealed before I'd even opened it. Is it a ring? Are you getting married? Can I be flower girl? I looked at Raphael, questions in my eyes. He took my hand. I know this isn't conventional. I know we've done everything backward. His thumb brushed my knuckles. But you saved my daughter. You saved me. And I don't want to spend another day without making this official. Inside the box was a ring. Aquamarine surrounded by small diamonds. The color of the ocean where everything started. Marry me, Claire. Not because of a contract or obligation. Marry me because I love you. Because Sophia loves you. Because we're already a family and I want the world to know it. Sophia bounced in her chair. Say yes. Say yes. I looked at this man who'd terrified me. This child who'd captured my heart. This impossible life I'd built from wreckage and salt water. and I realized I wasn't choosing between safety and danger anymore. I was choosing love, with all its complications. Yes, Sophia's cheer could probably be heard in downtown LA. Raphael slipped the ring on my finger and kissed me while his daughter chanted, "Wedding, wedding, wedding," like a prayer. Outside the window, the Pacific stretched blue and endless, holding secrets and promises in equal measure. Somewhere out there was the version of me who jumped into dangerous water to save a drowning child. She would hardly recognize the woman I'd become, but I thought she'd be proud anyway. We'd both learned that sometimes salvation means diving into the darkness, trusting that we'll find our way back to the light. And sometimes, we surface holding something worth keeping. 6 months after the proposal, I stood in front of a full-length mirror wearing a dress I'd never imagined I'd own. Simple ivory silk that fell to my ankles, nothing elaborate. No cathedral train or elaborate beading. Just clean lines that felt right for a woman who spent half her mornings in a lifeguard uniform. Carmen fussed with my hair while Sophia bounced on the bed behind me, already dressed in her flower girl outfit, pale blue that matched her eyes. "You look like a princess," Sophia declared. "Daddy's going to cry." "Your dad doesn't cry, sweetheart. He did when you said yes to marrying him. I saw." She tilted her head. "And when I finally swam without the floaties." He hid his face, but I could tell. The wedding was small. Just family and the few people who'd earned Raphael's trust over the years. Adriano stood as best man. Carmen wept in the front row, and my mother sat in her wheelchair with surprising clarity, smiling like she understood exactly what was happening. We married on the beach, not Malibu where I'd saved Sophia, but a private stretch of coastline that Raphael owned. The ceremony lasted 15 minutes. No religious officiants or elaborate vows, just a judge who'd known Raphael's father and words we'd written ourselves. When Raphael slipped the aquamarine ring on my finger, his hand shook slightly. "I didn't think I'd get a second chance at this," he said quietly. "Meant only for me. At family. At love. At being someone better than what I was born to be. You were always someone better." I whispered back. "You just needed a reason to show it." Sophia cheered when we kissed, and the small gathering applauded. Later, during the reception in Raphael's garden, I watched him dance with his daughter, both of them laughing at something only they understood, and felt something settle in my chest. Peace, maybe, or just the bone-deep certainty that I was exactly where I belonged. The months that followed rewrote our lives in subtle ways. Raphael's transition toward legitimate business continued. Slower than I'd hoped, but steady. The wine import company expanded into 3 states. Real estate ventures multiplied. He still maintained connections to his old world, still commanded respect that came from decades of power, but the violence had moved further from our daily existence. My mother's condition remained stable. The experimental treatment had bought us time, if not a cure. I visited her twice a week, and she always asked about that handsome man and the sweet little girl. Some days she remembered their names. Other days she just smiled and held my hand. I kept working as a lifeguard 3 mornings a week. Raphael had stopped trying to convince me to quit, understanding finally that I needed that connection to who I'd been. The salt air and endless horizon kept me grounded when his world threatened to pull me under. But the biggest change was Sophia. She'd started swimming lessons 8 months after the near drowning that had brought us together. Real lessons, not the terror-filled exposure therapy with Carmen. I was her instructor, of course. Neither Raphael nor I would trust anyone else with something so personal. The first few sessions were difficult. She'd panic when water touched her face, cling to the pool edge with white knuckles, cry that she wanted to stop. But she was her father's daughter, stubborn, determined, refusing to let fear win. By month 3, she could float on her back without my hands supporting her. By month 5, she was doing basic strokes across the shallow end. By month 7, she asked if we could try the ocean. That morning, 1 year and 2 months after I'd pulled her unconscious from the surf, we stood together at the water's edge. Sophia wore a bright yellow swimsuit, her dark curls pulled into a ponytail that bounced as she jumped from foot to foot. "I'm ready," she announced, though her grip on my hand said otherwise. Raphael stood further up the beach with Adriano. both of them trying and failing to look casual. I knew Raphael's heart was probably hammering as hard as mine. "We don't have to do this today," I offered Sophia one more time. "We can wait." "No." Her jaw set with familiar Luminari determination. "I want to. The ocean took Mama, but it gave me you. I'm not scared anymore." The logic was 6-year-old simple, but it broke something open in my chest. We waded in together, the water cold enough to make Sophia gasp. I kept one hand under her back, supporting her as she kicked experimentally. A wave rolled toward us, small, gentle, and she tensed. "I've got you," I promised. "Just like that first day. I'll always have you." She nodded and pushed off. Her strokes were clumsy but determined, arms churning water as she moved parallel to the shore. I stayed beside her, ready to catch her if she faltered. But she didn't need me. After 20 feet, she stopped and stood, water to her waist, grinning like she'd conquered Everest. "I did it! Did you see?" From the beach, Raphael whooped loud enough to startle seagulls. Sophia splashed toward shore, and he caught her up in his arms, spinning her while she shrieked with laughter. Over her head, his eyes found mine, and the gratitude in them was almost painful to witness. That afternoon, the three of us walked the beach together. Sophia ran ahead, collecting shells and chasing waves that retreated before her feet. Raphael's hand found mine, fingers interlacing with the ease of long practice. "Thank you," he said quietly. "For what?" "For diving into the water that day. For staying when every instinct probably told you to run. For teaching her that fear doesn't have to be permanent." He paused. "For teaching me the same thing." I leaned into his shoulder, breathing in salt air and expensive cologne, and the particular scent that was just him. "I didn't save you, Raphael. We saved each other." "Is that your professional opinion as a lifeguard?" "It's my professional opinion as someone who knows about drowning." I looked up at him. "You were drowning in grief and violence. I was drowning in debt and loneliness. Sophia was drowning in trauma. And somehow, we all found each other at exactly the right moment." Sophia ran back to us, pressing a perfect sand dollar into my palm. "For your collection." "It's not broken at all." I crouched to her level, admiring the treasure. "It's beautiful. Should we add it to the others?" She nodded seriously. "And then, can we swim more tomorrow?" "I want to learn the one where you go under the water and come up far away." "Diving," Raphael supplied. "And not until you're 8. That's forever." "That's 2 years, Principessa." She huffed dramatically but accepted the ruling, running ahead again toward where the tide had left a tangle of seaweed worth investigating. Raphael pulled me to my feet, and we continued walking. The sun was setting, painting the ocean in shades of copper and gold. I thought about the girl I'd been a year ago, desperate, exhausted, making impossible choices out of necessity. I thought about the man Raphael had been, buried in darkness, seeing his daughter as the only light in a world built on violence. We were different people now. Not perfect, not free from complications, but real in ways we hadn't been before. "I love you," Raphael said suddenly. "I don't say it enough." "You say it every morning and every night. Then I should say it more." He stopped walking, turning me to face him. "You took a bullet for my daughter. You stood by me when I gave you every reason to leave. You demanded I be better, and then believed I could be. That's not love you repay with words. How do you repay it?" He glanced toward Sophia, now dancing in the foam where water met sand. "By being the man who deserves it. By building a world where she doesn't have to be afraid. By making sure you never regret diving into that water." Sophia called to us, waving frantically at something she'd discovered. We walked toward her together. This family we'd built from trauma and salt water, from impossible choices and desperate faith. They say lifeguards are trained to save people from drowning. What they don't tell you is that sometimes the person you save ends up saving you right back. That sometimes the most dangerous water isn't in the ocean. It's in the human heart, in the spaces between fear and trust, between survival and truly living. I jumped into dangerous water to save a child I didn't know, and in return, she and her father had pulled me from depths I hadn't even realized I was drowning in. That evening, back at the house, I tucked Sophia into bed with her new sand dollar placed carefully on her nightstand. She was asleep before I finished the first page of our book, exhausted from swimming and sun. Raphael found me on the balcony later, watching stars emerge over the Pacific. He wrapped his arms around me from behind, chin resting on my shoulder. "Happy?" he asked. I thought about it seriously, about the complexity of this life, the shadows that still lurked at its edges, the reality that we'd never be a completely normal family. But I thought about Sophia's laughter, about my mother's good days, about waking up every morning beside a man who'd literally moved mountains to become someone worthy of the love he'd been given. "Yes," I said simply. "I'm happy." And I was. Not despite the complications, but because of them. Because happiness earned through struggle tastes sweeter than happiness given freely. Because family chosen deliberately means more than family assigned by blood.